Servus, hello, and welcome to Bayern Insider with Christian Falk, the English language news publisher and podcast for Bayern fans worldwide. You're joined by Farrell, Keeling, plus the head of football at Bild and Sport Bild, and our very own Christian Falk. How are you doing today, Christian?
Hello from Munich. We are in the middle of the Oktoberfest. You see, I'm wearing our leather trousers. That's very important at this time. It's our working clothes. You spend a lot of time and you meet indeed a lot of Bayern players on the Oktoberfest.
And who have you met so far, Christian?
On the first weekend, it was an unofficial party from the Bayern team. There was a company with the team in the Schützenzelt. It's very famous for the music. I can say nobody was really drunken. Your player from Chelsea, Nicholas Jackson, I think he was a little bit surprised about the big beers, and he was the only player who had no leather trouser yet. So he has to get one because it looked a little bit strange.
I think it's always such an interesting sort of cultural shift. I think for the players, I've not really encountered anything quite like it anywhere sort of else in Europe. But I think it looks such a closely guarded, a closely treasured tradition in Munich.
Yeah, it's like a family feast, because when you are there are always the same spots where you meet the persons. So like yesterday, I've been first at Käfer. It's very famous because the last weekend of the Oktoberfest, there will be the official Bayern Wiesen with the players, and they're allowed to drink. I met there Giovanni Elber, a legend, of course. He was with Claudio Pizarro, another legend. He played for Chelsea, as you know. So, and you go from one tent to the other tent, and then everywhere there is somebody, and there's a lot of football in the tent I was yesterday. There was, for example, Jens Lehmann, also legend of Arsenal London. He's really famous for being at Oktoberfest because last year he was silly enough to go by car back at home, and the police catched him. So he had a little bit problem, but I think this time he was without the car.
Well, that's good to see. That's good to see. Just enjoying the celebrations as they should be. Well, you mentioned Bayern. You've mentioned the players. Obviously, Bayern find themselves in a very good moment, set to face Pathos soon in the Champions League. How are you finding things with Bayern's sort of start to the season so far?
Yeah, Bayern Munich is playing very well. The team is a team. Also, Luis Diaz, he made it that he's now a part. You see, in this shape, they are really a team who can win the Champions League. But, the squad is not so big like the last years or in the years they won the Champions League. They have to be careful that there are not more injuries at the moment. At the moment already, Jamal Musiala is injured from the World Cup of the clubs. Alphonso Davies is still injured. Ito is injured. It's not so important player for the first 11, but you need players like him. And so at the moment, everything is fine, but there shouldn't be more injuries.
And I think a key part of this campaign certainly has been Harry Kane. He's been in fantastic form for club and for country. I suppose the main sort of question for me here is how much longer will Harry Kane be keeping up this form? How much longer will he be enjoying life in Munich? Because we've seen some pretty heavy rumours, haven't we, Christian, of a potential return to the Premier League. The question seems to be, is Harry Kane going to beat Alan Shearer's Premier League goalscorer record? Is that a serious thing that Bayern fans need to worry about?
Yes, it's a big topic as well here in Munich. I think he is in the form of his life. He made education. Max Eber, the head of sport, already said, he improved at Bayern Munich. He was before a big star, but now he's playing a little bit more like a winner. This is the Sieger Mentalität in Germany, the DNA of Bayern Munich. And he's scoring and scoring and scoring. But the contract, we made the story that he has this release clause, and he has to make to use it in winter for the next summer. And the next summer, there is the World Cup. And after the World Cup, he has just one more year left. And Bayern Munich can't give him away without a transfer fee. They paid a lot of money for him. And that's why the question has to be, will he use it this winter or not? There are the rumors. He's interested, of course, in the record of Alan Shearer. But he's like to win something. And that's why he think what's about Champions League? if you want to win it, I think the best moment is at Bayern Munich. So this will be a big decision because otherwise he has to sign a new contract, and that will be a question of money because he's earning about 24 million euros a year gross. Bayern won't give him more because he's not getting younger. So this will be big discussions.
And unfortunately, I think the potentially worrying news keeps on coming for Bayern Munich fans because, if we're going to talk about transfers, I think Dayot Upamecano is a pretty good place to start. Christian, the Liverpool and Bayern connection in the transfer market is reportedly still going pretty strong. Is it true that Liverpool are taking a serious look at the French international?
Yeah, this is true. Bayern is trying to give Upamecano a new contract since month. I think nearly a year they are talking now. And the time is running because next summer he's a free agent, and it makes him so interesting for many, many clubs. You have the same situation like Konate. He's also a free agent. And yes, if you can get a player like Dayot Upamecano for free, and every top club in the world is looking at him. And I heard also Real Madrid is very, very interested at him as well. David Alaba, former Bayern player, he was a free agent when he go to Real Madrid from Bayern. And Toni Rüdiger, he was also a free agent. Bayern Munich was interested when he came from Chelsea to Real. And both are free agents next summer. I don't think they get a new contract. And that's why Real Madrid have also a big eye on Dayot Upamecano. But with Liverpool, you have now a big player as well on the table. And that makes it very hard for Bayern Munich because I heard that Bayern Munich don't want to pay him the salary he wants to get. And that's why it's a little bit quiet about these talks. And this could be really dangerous for Bayern Munich because Dayot Upamecano is very important for the defense.
No, absolutely. And it certainly sounds like there's a lot of dominoes still yet to fall before we see a lot of movement across Europe between clubs and players. The next story, and I think continuing along the vein of sort of this Liverpool Bayern strand, I think one link that's certainly going to really excite Premier League fans, if not Bundesliga fans, is the potential return of former Crystal Palace winger Michael Olise. What's the state of play currently with reports claiming that Olise is being watched by not only Liverpool, but also Premier League giants Manchester City?
Yeah, I think on the island, they see now what a big player he is. When Bayern Munich trigger the release clause of Crystal Palace, there was just a Newcastle in the poker for Bayern Munich. They could make it. I think if there would already be Liverpool or City on the table, it would have been really more complicated. But now they see what a player he could be at Bayern Munich. He's at the moment the player of the year. I talked about with Thomas Müller about him, and he said he's the new leader in the team. He's not talking a lot, but he's always showing, give me the ball and I will make something special. And now, yes, teams like Liverpool, and I heard also Pep Guardiola City are watching him very, very closely. Because for Bayern Munich, they afford 50 million euro for him from Crystal Palace, or 55. But if they pay a price over 100 million, yes, Bayern Munich has to think about it. But they want to keep him, and now they're trying to give him a new contract so that they don't lose him.
It's a lot of money, but I think certainly from what I've seen of the player so far, very much worth it. Possibly the most exciting young footballer in the Bundesliga at the minute, I would argue. Unfortunately, Christian, the bad news just keeps on coming, doesn't it, as far as Premier League links are concerned? Because it's also potentially not great news for Alexander Pavlovic. Is it true that City are potentially looking at him as a potential long-term successor for Rodri?
Yeah, because he's doing very well at Bayern Munich, so it's always had a good side and a bad side. The good side is he's playing so good that he's interesting for the Premier League. The bad side is the Premier League can pay a lot more. And yes, his salary at Bayern Munich could be till 8 million euros gross, we heard. But on the island, of course, they pay more. And, the system of the teams is not so different. When City made the deal with Rodri, Bayern Munich was also on the table with him. But yes, when City is knocking, it's getting really, really difficult for Bayern Munich. And now you see, if you're searching a successor, they have the same profile again. That why it's really, really hard for Bayern Munich, because he's a player from Munich. He's a talent from the club. So he's doing very well, but he's not already at this level he can be. He can be a very important part also for the national team. So Bayern Munich has to be aware that they have also give him a new contract to save him for the Bundesliga.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much sums up. Excellent players at Bayern Munich, but there is the threat of Premier League interest. But Bayern did carry their own threat to the Premier League during the summer transfer window. Obviously, Luis Diaz signed from Liverpool Football Club, one of the premier left wingers in European football at the moment, and has made a pretty good start to life in Munich, it has to be said. But in the same vein, Christian, I think we have to acknowledge that Bayern Munich were linked with quite a lot of forwards during the summer transfer window. Quite a few names that were whispered, even shouted up and down the halls of power at FC Bayern. I think one name that certainly would have caught the eye in reports was Arsenal's Gabriel Martinelli. So, for our first ever True or Not True on the transfer review, Christian, FC Bayern was interested in Martinelli, and that was...
True. Indeed, he was a topic on a long list, before they would go for Nico Williams and Jamie Gittins, but they didn't get them, so they had an idea about new players, and Martinelli indeed was one of the players. I heard that Bayern Munich would paid 35 million euros, and that wasn't enough for Arsenal. They said, no, we don't have to talk about that, but there were talks with the agents of Martinelli, and I'm happy that also my colleague, the transfer insider Fabrizio Romano, also said this is true. So he said the story of us is true.
Absolutely. And it's worth noting, you reported exclusively for Bayern Insider back in June this year that this wasn't even the first time the player's name had come up at Bayern Munich. I think indeed ex-Bayern boss Thomas Tuchel had already talked about the player during his spell in charge.
Yes, also true. The idea was of one Tuchel. He know the Premier League very closely, of course, at this time at Chelsea, and he made many proposals for players from this time. Martinelli was one of him. Also, Mason Mount was an idea of Tuchel. And now, if you are on a short list at Bayern Munich, you stay there and you get the idea back. Oh, there was a really good name. Thomas Tuchel said he's a player who can help us. And so you see, he's in the profile of Bayern Munich.
Excellent stuff. And I think given, we have to root this around the context of course, Kingsley Coman has gone to Saudi Arabia. Serge Gnabry's contract expires next year, I believe. With that in mind, I think it's probably looking like the Bayern will need to invest in more forward talent potentially in the next year's summer transfer window. Is this a name that Bayern fans should keep an eye on?
So yes, that's also true. The squad is not big enough, also in the eyes of Vincent Kompany. So if Bayern Munich is losing one player more, also Kingsley Coman, this was a big question if they could sell him. That's why they had to go for Nicholas Jackson, and he's just a player on loan, so it's not sure if he will play next year also at Bayern Munich. So they have to keep an eye on many players. Again, for the wings, it was a hard search, but Bayern Munich made a decision that they make this time a really early transfer market, that they don't get so much pressure they get in this transfer window.
Brilliant stuff. And of course,